In 1787, the First Fleet set sail from Portsmouth, England, in response to a crisis in its prison system. With the loss of the American colonies as a destination for convicts, overcrowding became a serious issue. The solution? Establish a penal colony half a world away in the largely unexplored lands of New South Wales, Australia. Royal Navy officer Arthur Phillip, who had been appointed the first governor of the new colony, led the fleet consisting of 11 ships. 6 were former slave ships repurposed as convict transports, 2 naval escorts, and 3 store ships. The fleet stopped for supplies in Tenerife in the Canary Islands, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and Cape Town in South Africa. Plagued with scurvy, storms, and the constant challenge of maintaining discipline among the convicts made the journey perilous. Arriving at Botany Bay in January 1788, Philip quickly realized it was an unsuitable location and made the wise decision to relocate. On January 26, 1788, a date now celebrated as Australia Day, the British established a settlement at Sydney Cove in Port Jackson. It was a precarious start for what would become one of the most remote outposts of the British Empire, but from those humble, harsh beginnings grew a modern Australia. It also had profound impacts on the indigenous Aboriginal populations already living across the vast Australian landmass for tens of thousands of years. Now, on the very next day, across the vast Atlantic, we find ourselves in the same year, but a very different situation. Imagine the United States in the 1780s as a team that has just won a huge championship, the Revolutionary War. Their initial set of rules, the Articles of Confederation, was like trying to run a modern football franchise with guidelines meant for a casual backyard game. In 1787, 55 delegates from the 12 of the 13 original states gathered in Philadelphia. The delegation included legendary figures like George Washington, the respected head coach presiding over the convention, James Madison, the brilliant strategist often called the father of the Constitution, Benjamin Franklin, the wise elder statesman and veteran leader, Alexander Hamilton, the ambitious young star quarterback pushing for strong central team leadership. Some of the key components these delegates spent months debating, drafting, and revising were establishing a two-house Congress as both an offensive and defensive unit, creating an executive president as the team's on-field quarterback, setting up an independent judicial branch as the referees, implementing checks and balances so no single unit becomes too powerful, defining the relationship between the national team and the state franchises. With the new playbook drafted, the delegates had to go back and pitch it to their entire League of States to get approval. This ratification process sparked intense debates, giving birth to the Anti-Federalists, who feared it gave too much central power. To get the Anti-Federalists on board, the promise was made to add a Bill of Rights as a safety rulebook explicitly protecting players' fundamental rights and liberties. By 1789, the Constitution was ratified by the required 9 states, establishing the new government structure. The Bill of Rights was added in 1791, and a new era in American democracy had begun. The end result was a robust, enduring framework that has governed American democracy for over 200 years. Wednesday, May 15th brings us to the malt shop and poodle skirt days of America. Here we witness the birth of a giant. Imagine you're at a food festival where every stall takes forever to prepare your order. The lines are long and the wait is excruciating. But then, one vendor does something revolutionary. They start cranking out delicious burgers, fries, and shakes at lightning speed using a brand new speedy service system. Suddenly that stall becomes the hottest spot with people flocking there for quick, tasty meals. That's essentially what happened when the first McDonald's franchise opened its doors on May 15, 1955 in Des Plaines, Illinois. Before McDonald's was a global fast food behemoth, it was just an idea pioneered by brothers Richard and Maurice McDonald. Inspired by factories, they simplified their menu and used an assembly line approach to rapidly prepare a limited selection of items. Enter Ray Kroc, a savvy milkshake mixer salesman who visited the McDonald brothers in 1954. Kroc convinced the brothers to allow him to start opening McDonald's restaurants based on their pioneering system. On May 15, 1955, the first franchise McDonald's location opened under Kroc's leadership. That first location was an immediate sensation, leading to rapid expansion across the country. Kroc's obsession with consistency ensured the burger you ate in California tasted identical to one in New York. By 1961, Crockett bought out the McDonald brothers to take the franchise national and then global. From its humble origins as a single drive-in burger joint in the 1940s, McDonald's became one of the 20th century's most influential brands and business models. It was a revolutionary milestone that forever changed the way we eat and do business. Rewinding a decade, we find ourselves in the skies over battle-torn Europe of World War II. May 16th would make history and define heroes. Imagine you're playing an epic strategy game where crippling your opponent's supply lines and resources is the key to defeating them. That's essentially what Allied forces attempted with one of World War II's most audacious bombing raids, Operation Chastise, better known as the Dam Busters mission. In 1943, the Royal Air Force hatched an ingenious plan to destroy several major dams in Germany's industrial Ruhr Valley using a special type of bomb invented by scientist Barnes Wallis. The bouncing bomb is like a perfectly skipped rock sailing across a lake to hit a targeted embankment. But in this case, it was a precisely engineered cylinder that had to be dropped from just 60 feet up while the bomber flew at 220 miles an hour. An extremely difficult technical feat, all performed in the darkness of night. On the night of May 16, 1943, 19 Lancaster bombers of the newly formed 617th Squadron took off from an airfield in England, each loaded with a single massive bouncing bomb and a 7-man crew. Despite fierce anti-aircraft fire, the bombers managed to breach 2 of the 4 targeted dams, with a third being damaged. Millions of tons of water gushed through the Ruhr Valley, sweeping away factories, power plants, and infrastructure vital to the German war machine. While Germany eventually repaired the damage, Operation Chastise dealt an initial crippling setback and proved the concept of Wallis's revolutionary bouncing bomb technology. More importantly, the Dam Busters mission showcased the bravery, precision, and technical prowess of the RAF crews who pulled off this remarkable feat against daunting odds. The 1970s were remembered as a time of soaring inflation, political upheaval, and the erosion of United States prestige worldwide. May 17th gives us one of the main reasons. It all started with a 1972 break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters in the Watergate office complex in Washington, D.C. What initially seemed like a petty burglary quickly snowballed into allegations of a massive campaign of political sabotage and espionage by President Nixon's re-election team against their rivals. As evidence of high-level cover-ups mounted, the Senate struck the Bipartisan Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities in early 1973, known widely as the Watergate Committee. Their mission? Investigate the extent of illegal activities related to that pivotal 1972 election. Leading this investigative team was Senator Sam Ervin, a respected judge revered for his integrity and moral fortitude. His Republican vice chair was Senator Howard Baker, who famously asked, "What did the president know? And when did he know it?" Over the summer of 1973, the Watergate hearings gripped the nation as they were broadcast live on TV. Shocking bombshell evidence would be presented by key witnesses such as John Dean and Alexander Butterfield, which would allude to massive cover-up being potentially documented by secret Oval Office recording devices. After a prolonged legal battle, the Supreme Court ruled that Nixon had to surrender those tapes. Faced with a mountain of damning evidence uncovered by the committee and likely impeachment, Nixon resigned in August 1974 before he could be removed from office. While a dark moment, the Watergate investigation also reaffirmed that no president is above the law. It strengthened procedures like special prosecutors to ensure such abuses of power never go unchecked. This was just one event from each day this week. How will your week go down in the pages of history? Now it's your turn to join the conversation. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on significant moments in history. Thank you for watching.